My parents said my boyfriend's drinking and lack of a degree were red flags, but they don't see how he treats me like I matter. I've never felt so seen, I told them while he calls me his wife to everyone. Am I blinded by love or are they just too harsh? I, 22 female, recently had my boyfriend, 22 male, visit me in Ohio to meet my parents for the first time. We originally met online through gaming, and over the past 6 months, our relationship has evolved into something I have never experienced before in a positive way. There was an immediate attraction the moment we began talking. We simply clicked. However, it was not until a month later that he officially asked me to be his girlfriend during the last cooperative mission in Halo. Reach, I had never played any Halo game until I met him. It is still one of the most special moments I have ever experienced, and since then I have become increasingly interested in the Halo franchise and its lore, especially since he also bought me Halo-related items. He is from Texas and works full-time on an oil rig. Despite his demanding job, he has been consistent, kind, emotionally supportive, and incredibly affectionate. He calls me every day after work, FaceTimes me regularly, and we have watched The Walking Dead all the way to season 7 together. We also game together, and he always boosts my confidence with compliments, both about my gameplay and my appearance. He is loving, respectful, flirty, and genuinely makes me feel valued. We have met in person twice. First visit last month, he came to Ohio, and I visited him at his friend's house who also lives in Ohio. That is when we became intimate for the first time. He told me I was the first person he had ever been with and that he waited for someone he truly loves, trusts, and wants to be with for the rest of his life. That moment was incredibly meaningful. We did much more than just that. Most of this trip was to ensure our connection was not solely emotional, but that we could be together physically as well. Going on dates, watching shows, cleaning, and making dinner, all activities in which he supported me. Second visit, this past weekend, he came to visit me at my home and met my parents. We spent 4 days together, further deepening our connection. When we are together, he treats me as if I matter. He holds my hand constantly, cuddles with me, opens doors, carries my things, and buys me thoughtful little gifts like books and Legos. He never leaves my side. He is exactly the same person I have known online, but instead of words, I get to see it through his actions. He also proudly refers to me as his wife in front of everyone, his family, his friends, and even online. He shows me off with pride, not in a performative way, but because he genuinely wants the world to know he loves me. We have an incredible amount of trust between us. We are exclusive, fully committed to each other, and open in ways I have never experienced in a relationship before. We share each other's phone passwords, and we have both used each other's phones openly without hesitation. There has never been any question of loyalty or honesty. It is effortless transparency. Our connection is deeper than anything I have ever had. We speak the same language, literally saying the same things at the same time, texting identical thoughts, and finishing each other's sentences. He is not just someone I love, he genuinely feels like home. And this is not merely a fling. We have had serious, in-depth conversations about our future. We discuss what we want to accomplish together over the next year, our plans to move, our dreams of traveling the world together, building a life side by side, and eventually settling down, getting married, and starting a family. This is not just fantasy talk, it is intentional. We both have goals and we want to build a future together. Now for the challenging part, my parents do not like him. They pointed out red flags, and after he left, they clearly expressed that they do not believe he is the right one for me. Here is what they stated. When he drank beer during his visit, yes, he consumed a reasonable amount, not excessively, but never acted out of control. In fact, he becomes even more affectionate when he drinks. That is how he was raised, but he is always respectful and in control. 2. He uses Zyn nicotine pouches. They brought this up frequently, expressing concerns about health and habits. He does not hide it, but it is also not something he imposes on anyone. It does not affect how he treats me or how he functions. 3. He did not engage with them. He absolutely did. We had dinner, sat at the table for hours, and he engaged in conversation. He is naturally talkative and laid back, but he was polite, respectful, and certainly not ignoring anyone. 4. He does not have a college degree. They worry he cannot support me, even though he earns as much if not more than I do. I possess a degree and work full-time, and I do not require financial support, but even if I did, he is capable. For context, I was raised in a very sheltered household. I have done everything they asked, obtained my degree, secured a full-time job, avoided trouble, and consistently followed their rules. I have lived under strict supervision for years, and now that I have found someone who loves me without judgment, I feel as if I am being held back again. They are also concerned about my plan to move to Texas with him next year, saying I will lack a support system if something goes wrong. However, his family and he absolutely adore me. His parents have openly stated they would love for me to live with them or nearby, and his mother and I even text and FaceTime regularly. His friends are also incredibly welcoming. One even offered me a place to stay if I ever needed it. His world feels safe, supportive, and loving. Mine feels cold and critical. I know my parents care about me. I do not wish to disregard their perspective, but I cannot overlook how controlling they have been and how deeply I care for this man. He means everything to me. He makes me feel loved, secure, and accepted in ways I never thought I would experience. I have finally found someone who brings me peace, not pressure. Love, not judgment. Am I being blinded by love, or are they being overly judgmental due to personality and lifestyle differences? How do I navigate this without losing either him or my family? Edit 1. Hello everyone, I apologize for falling off the face of the earth. I went to bed early, but now it is 4 a.m. and I am having difficulty sleeping. Shortly after writing this post and reading some comments, I called him to discuss some of the points raised. We talked about his drinking habits, including why he thought it was acceptable to do that in front of my parents. He apologized profusely and said that if I wanted him to stop, he would quit drinking entirely and only consume alcohol in extreme moderation. I agreed. We also discussed the possibility of moving to Texas next year and the need to slow things down. He apologized for making it feel rushed and said if I wanted to wait longer than a year while taking things at a slower pace, he was completely fine with that. He asserted that it should not feel rushed and asked if there was anything specific he could work on or if I felt pressured. I explained how I genuinely felt. It did not necessarily feel rushed, but we should allow much more time than we have so far, and he agreed and apologized. He believes our relationship should not feel like a rush, and he is willing to give me as much time as I need. We even discussed the possibility of him moving up here, and he is more than open to that, even considering finding a different job to support us together if that happens. I also talked with him about the term wife. I do not mind it personally, but since I am not actually married to him yet, I feel no need or obligation for him to use it. He again apologized for referring to me in that way. We do have plans to see each other at least once a month for the next year. I am planning to go to Texas for a weekend for his birthday next month, and I will be going on vacation with him and his family in May. I have not thought much about June or beyond, but I know he would book a flight just to see me in an instant. As for some of the questions I received. One, shortly after picking him up at the airport, we went grocery shopping for alcohol together. I was already aware of his drinking habits since we did this the first time we met. I did not see anything wrong with it, as I informed him we do not keep much alcohol at my parents' house. This is not to defend him. I made sure he understood that his drinking habits were excessive during our earlier phone call. 2. I live with my parents. I recently graduated from college and secured a full-time position, so I am currently living with them to save money for my own place. 3. I apologize for not mentioning any negatives. I did not think to include anything that I perceived as unfavorable in my initial post. I tend to focus on the potential good in him. Yes, we have certainly had our ups and downs, and neither of us is perfect. We have had our share of arguments and disagreements. To be honest, there were many issues brought up in my conversation with my parents that I did not even know about him. 4. For additional context, I have met and played games with his friends. After getting home, I usually join a call with them to discuss and play games together. They have known each other for over a decade, and I trust their word and know them well. None of what they have told me about him has been a lie, and all their stories regarding his life and experiences align. 5. He has had one other serious relationship in his life. He was 16 in high school and has not had another since. To summarize, her parents made her break up with him due to some seemingly severe issues. From what I gathered, he was once a bully in high school and everyone was afraid of him. Since then, he has not dated anyone, as I have heard from his friends that he has faced several failed talking stages over the past 2 years, specifically 3 girls that I have been made aware of. His friends informed me about all 3 before we ever started dating, and they assumed I would become just another failed talking stage. But they were surprised when he asked me to be his girlfriend, as he had never asked any of those girls to be his partner. Since then, his friends have been very kind and accepting of me, making me feel like part of their small group. 3 of them live relatively close together in another state and have asked if my boyfriend and I would come out to visit them sometime next year. Once again, they have known each other for a literal decade, playing games together since they were 12, so I do not perceive anything wrong with that. Additionally, my boyfriend met 3 of them earlier this year. One reason he explained for not dating anyone is that, in today's world, people seem to seek only casual encounters rather than serious relationships. For him to find me someone looking for the same things and having so much in common, he feels is rare and can envision a future with me. While we do not share all of the same interests, during the time I have known him, we never run out of things to discuss, whether it is about each other, our lives, or our future plans. 6. He has always been extremely generous with his finances. When he visited the 3 friends I mentioned, he frequently paid for their dinners or covered for one of them if needed. He has also bought me and the guys a few video games so that we can all play together. Therefore, I do not see anything wrong with him buying me a Lego set or a couple of books, or us enjoying lunch or dinner together. I occasionally try to pay for things, but he does not allow me, insisting that it is on him and that I should be treated like a lady. 7. I do not mind moving to Texas. Yes, I am on birth control and have been for over 5 years. We both exercise extreme caution regarding this, and we use additional protection as well. We discuss sex frequently because I tend to experience recurrent urinary tract infections after intercourse. Thus, my desire not to engage in sex often comes up. He has stated that he is more than willing to wait until we can figure out what is wrong with my body, and he reassures me that I can say no, which I have done. When he visited this weekend, we did not have sex at all. I should also mention that during our first meeting, we established a safe word and a physical action for safety purposes. He wants to ensure that I am completely comfortable, and I and he have used our safe word before. He halts everything immediately. 8. I have been in 3 serious relationships in my life. I had 2 considerable relationships in college, both of which felt to me like they moved at a suitable pace. In my most recent relationship, we discussed the possibility of me moving to where my ex lived after college. We ended our relationship during my senior year, so those discussions never progressed far, but the topic was indeed present. The only difference is that my ex and I had been dating for nearly 2 years by that point. Thus, I recognize and understand that the moving situation should not be rushed. Edit 2. My parents did not raise any of these concerns or his drinking habits in front of him. These are all points I heard later on after he left, which they then brought up to me. I was mistaken to assume they would address these issues with him, and my father even offered him whiskey during their conversation, so I personally did not see a problem with his drinking. Edit 3. I was unable to sleep after updating this post. I ended up calling him around 5 a.m. this morning and discussing these issues more thoroughly. He has wholeheartedly agreed to quit drinking, or if I think he is drinking, to FaceTime me immediately to prove it. Regarding his nicotine addiction, he intends to gradually reduce his intake over the next few months. He has been using nicotine since he was 12 and is fully addicted. I expressed these concerns as my own health issues, separate from what my parents mentioned. These are serious health matters. People should not be consuming 10 beers a night. I also emphasized that these changes should not solely be for me, but rather for him to improve his health and well-being. He now understands that these are genuine concerns. If there are any other questions I have not addressed, please leave a comment, and I will try to review this again sometime tomorrow. Edit 4. Hey everyone, thank you so much for all the thoughtful responses. I have decided I will no longer be commenting or reading this thread after today. I plan to take things one day at a time and live each day as it comes, whether positive or negative, and definitely slow things down. Every comment has provided something valuable. Many of you have raised valid concerns, and I appreciate how this has helped me pause and reevaluate some of my own boundaries, values, and morals. Thank you again for your advice, support, and honesty. Perhaps I will have an update in the future, perhaps not. Take care, Blue Lentile. Story 2. Is my boyfriend 38 dating his mom 60 instead of me? After 10 months, I realize our romantic dinners often include his mother. I thought we could go to Toronto for a concert. Mom and sister can come too. Signals are clear. I'm competing with a woman who's never left his side. Where do I fit in? When I first began dating my boyfriend, I genuinely liked his mother. She was enjoyable to be around, and we participated in many activities together, such as nature walks, dinners, and movie nights. I did not think much of it when my parents appeared surprised that his mother was always included, as he had been recovering from an illness, and I assumed he simply enjoyed her company. However, after about 10 months, I began to notice some uncomfortable patterns. One evening, I wanted to watch a romantic movie, Baby Girl, that I had been looking forward to. He organized the evening but then invited his mother to join us, despite my repeated statements that I was uncomfortable watching that type of film with her. It was intended to be a date night, yet he even ordered popcorn for all 3 of us. Additionally, a few weeks earlier, I wanted to see a movie in the theater with him for the first time, but he chose Nosferatu because his mother loves vampire movies. He then invited her, turning what was meant to be our date into an outing centered around his mother. They had previously attended movies together, just the 2 of them. Consequently, I remained in the bedroom and felt forced to watch it on his bed. I could sense his discomfort, as if he was disappointing her after telling her we might watch a movie together. Anyway, that film was terrible, so we ended up having sex a couple of times, and by 1 a.m. when he asked if I wanted tea and the desserts he had ordered with the popcorn, I replied yes and went to the kitchen. He then went to fetch his mother to join us. The next morning, I was sitting in the living room playing with the cat or something similar. We were both aware of each other, yet neither of us said hello. This was literally the only time it happened. Later, I heard them whispering in her room. They spoke another language. Who whispers in the middle of the day in their own home? I knew they were talking about me. Later, he asked me if I noticed that I did not greet his mother that morning. It was literally the one time I had not greeted her after 10 months. I thought it was nothing at all. Had they never lived with someone else before, did they not understand how to handle people? If one person does not say hello, it should not be taken personally if you know and like them. One occasion should not have such an impact. Perhaps if it had persisted for a week, I might have understood. Later, she returned home and I made a point to greet her, but she merely looked at me unenthusiastically. I thought, whatever, I do not care, maybe she is just having a bad day. This did not change my perception of her, which I knew to be that of a very kind person. Later, during an argument, he informed me that his mother said I made her feel inferior. He is typically the first to tell me he is not responsible for how I feel. But when his mother stated that I made her feel something, it became a major issue, which led to a week-long argument. In another instance, I was with him from Friday until Tuesday, and we planned a weekend getaway. After the previous incident, I became aware of how close he and his mother were, which started to make me uncomfortable. I expressed my desire to take a vacation with him to a village 2 hours from where we live. He mentioned he would consider going, and I told him how much I would love to do it, but only if we spent the night since I did not want to make a 4-hour round trip in one day. After I left on Tuesday, he invited me to Whistler and I asked if he was spending the night. He said no, claiming hotels were too expensive at that time. I responded, okay then no thanks. He departed around 3 or 4 p.m. and I thought it was a strange time to leave for such a long drive. Then he spent the night. He went with his mother and sister. It was the Tuesday after Valentine's Day. I felt as if he did this for them as a Valentine's Day gift since he was the only man in their lives. I couldn't understand how he could go with his mother and spend the night after I expressed how much I longed for that kind of experience with him. I even mentioned to him a country I planned to visit for an appointment I was contemplating making. He said he would like to join me, but when I asked further questions, it became clear he wanted his mother to come along as well. On what would have been our first vacation together, he wanted to bring his mother along for my own planned trip. I found this absurd. I would prefer to go alone. It was not about his mother. It was about wanting to have romantic couple vacations, not family group outings. If his mother joined us, I felt as if we could not leave her alone. That would be rude. Consequently, he suggested bringing his sister so we could engage in activities together while also having time alone. There were instances where he bought expensive clothing. He did not possess much style or many nice clothes, just comfortable home wear or old items. Once he began dating me, he wanted to dress better, and I assisted him with this because he desired it. I never pressured him to buy anything. He would purchase various items to build his wardrobe, and his mother would act very upset, blaming me for his spending. I am 29 and he is 38. He is a grown man. Who am I to dictate what a man can or cannot buy? I sensed she was blaming me for his expenditures, and he would buy me things, wanting to show them to her afterward. Eventually, I stopped permitting him to do that. I received a Chanel purse that I had selected for Christmas from him, only for his mother to express her desire for the same one. He also bought gloves for me that I picked out, and his mother requested he gift them to her for Christmas. He moved to an apartment closer to the mall by 3 minutes, and she advised him not to walk to the mall but to engage in nature walks with him instead. I disliked the underlying implication that I was spending his money, yet he literally gives her money since he retired her. Probably his sister, who has no job, is also supported by him. Why should I have a say in how a 38-year-old man spends his own money? She should discuss her concerns with him directly, not direct them towards me. I was in a relationship for 10.5 years before this and never said anything to my partner about how he spent his money. He would give his mother $50,000 for her birthday and I did not mind. He even bought his sister a Mercedes. He was always generous with his family, which I thought was a positive trait. However, I have never encountered a man who is generous towards his family while having his family express jealousy or concern about his spending on his girlfriend. Furthermore, my ex would never ask his mother to clean for him. He would hire a house cleaner for her. My current boyfriend gives off the impression of being a child who needs his mother to tend to him. If he has retired his mother to enjoy life, as he claims, then how could having her take care of his daily chores be considered enjoyment? When we go on walks or eat out, he is constantly texting his mother, sending her photos and updates. She does the same with him. She goes for hikes and literally anything at all she sends photos or calls him about. It is bizarre. I feel as if my boyfriend has another woman in his life, his mother. Last weekend, I had shoulder and neck pain and was on my period. Still, I engaged in intimate acts with him. We went for a massage because I kept complaining about my discomfort. I started watching White Lotus with him, possibly 4 or 5 episodes. Then he told his mother so she could catch up and we could watch it all together. I'm in bed, freezing, not feeling well. He keeps asking me if we are going to watch White Lotus, pressuring me because his mother wants to see it. I expressed that I was uncomfortable, the couch was annoying, and I had to turn my neck to see the screen. Regardless, he ran me a bath, ordered food, and was very sweet, so afterward, I agreed to watch it to get it over with. Afterward, he whispered to me, asking if I wanted to watch a movie. I was confused. It felt like he was trying to orchestrate plans because he wanted to watch movies with his mother. He began showing a preview of a movie, asking his mother if she wanted to watch. I stated that I was uncomfortable on the couch. He simply proceeded to ignore my discomfort. I went to the washroom and then laid in bed. 5 minutes later, he entered and asked if I was coming out to watch the movie. I reminded him that I had told him how much my neck hurt and how uncomfortable the couch was for me. It was frustrating. I felt as if he disregarded my feelings and preferred to engage in these activities with his mother. They could watch movies together every night without me. Why could we not just enjoy our time alone when we were together? His mother is not trying to infringe on our time. It feels more as if he actively wants her there and invites her. Therefore, I do not blame her, it is him. However, she indulges him, leading me to feel unnecessary in his life. How can I be a partner to him? How can I feel like the woman in his life or envision being a wife to a man who allows his mother to prepare fruit plates, do his laundry, and clean up after him? When I witnessed his mother bring him a fruit plate, I saw him as a child. I used to handle every household-related task, including cooking, baking, cleaning, and more in my past relationship, and I did not see any issue with it. I would like to be this way for my current boyfriend, but when I see his mother take on those roles, I view him as a child with a fixation on his mother. A man of his age needs a wife, not a mother to care for him. These are responsibilities I should fulfill for him and our potential children if we had any. I struggle to comprehend my role in this relationship if it were to progress further. What if we cohabitated? Would I merely assume all household responsibilities while his mother relaxed and pursued her own interests every day? Or would his mother and I become sister wives attending to his needs? He has also complained that I do not clean as frequently as I did in the past. The difference now is I have my own apartment and many more responsibilities than I had previously. Moreover, I have a child. Does he expect me to be a servant to him and his mother, making her life easier? I hate entertaining these thoughts, but with everything that has occurred, I cannot help but wonder. I told him how much my daughter enjoys spending time with her grandmother since they always engage in fun activities together, like getting ice cream, etc. I think even if she doesn't eat healthily during visits, it's worth it for the memories they create together. He mentioned having a similar experience with his grandmother. He loved visiting her until his mother stopped going to her home. That was one of the first observations that struck me. How could anyone be envious of a relationship between a child and their own mother? It is fundamentally healthy to maintain a positive relationship with grandparents. When he came over to my place, I demonstrated how I make popcorn, using just kernels, oil, butter, and salt on the stove. He enjoyed it and had never tried it that way before. The next day, while at his house, he told his mother that I made the best popcorn he had ever eaten. She looked at me, leading me to think about the implications. When she saw me again, she asked me to teach her how to make it. Heaven forbid that someone else could prepare something his mother considers the best. I did not mind. If she learned to make it herself, it would mean less work for me. This past weekend, we discussed how his favorite band was coming to town, but we would have to travel to Toronto to see them. I thought it would be fun. It could be a lovely couples trip, meaningful for making memories together. We also discovered another band announcing their tour, and they have a song that we believe to be our song. The excitement we shared was wonderful. Then we went for a nature walk with his mother and sister, had dinner together, watched White Lotus, then hung out and talked. He played our song on YouTube, stating they were coming, asking who wanted to go, an invitation to his mother and sister. I was bewildered. I envisioned this as a romantic, intimate experience, but instead, both of them expressed their desire to attend. Later, I asked him if his mother and sister would also join us at his favorite band's concert in Toronto. He replied yes. I could not believe it. They live together, they travel to other countries, just the two of them, Russia, Thailand, Monaco, the south of France, and many other places. They went together, just the two of them. He became ill and claimed he retired his mother from her job so she could take care of him. Now that he is well, he insists that his mother will always live with him. He also mentioned that if we were to have a child, the girl would bear his mother's name. Absolutely not. I truly love him, and he is an outstanding boyfriend in many respects, but this poses a significant issue. He views it as wanting to reward his mother for her hard work over the years, and he perceives her as a friend, wanting to share experiences together. When my daughter matures, I would not wish for her to prioritize me over finding a partner and creating her own family. My parents would never expect that of me either. While I feel a strong connection to my parents, I do not text them or update them on my daily activities more than I do my boyfriend, unlike the way he does with his mother. I suspect that his mother needs a man in her life because he is the only man available, and honestly, I think he enjoys that dynamic. He has had few relationships in the past. Why would he need a girlfriend when he has someone fulfilling emotional needs already? I genuinely like his family. The issue lies in the sheer amount of time spent together, as well as his preference for family activities that ought to be reserved for us as a couple. Can someone please assist me? I need advice on how to make a relationship function under these circumstances. I apologize for the length of this message. Story 3. After months of biting my tongue, I confronted my sister and her fiancé. Don't you think now is a good time to ask mom for your loan back? Come kick her while she's down. They vacationed in paradise while our parents struggle. What will they say next? Okay, I would like to jump right in with a bit of background. The context is important for the conclusion. My parents own a trucking company that my stepfather manages in an office setting from home. This has been his career since the 1990s, and after meeting my mother in 2010, he settled in with my family, choosing the more office-oriented aspect of the job to be with us. They have created a lovely life together, with my mother finally having the 2 horses she has always wanted. She also rescued 3 goats and is of course proud of that. They own their own house and have feathered a pretty little nest for themselves. My stepfather is also a very fiscally conservative and responsible man. Last year, unexpectedly, my stepfather became very ill. He was diagnosed with stage 2 colon cancer, went to the hospital for what was supposed to be a weekend for a scheduled surgery, and due to complications was in a coma for 10 days. We did not know if he would survive. I have nothing truly tying me down, no children, no house of my own, so when my mother asked me to look after the house and the farm animals while they were away at the hospital, I without hesitation agreed. He ended up staying in the hospital for over 7 weeks. They had to pay all his medical bills that insurance did not cover and had to cover my mother's living expenses while she sustained herself away from home. They exhausted all of their savings, had to lay off many of their loyal drivers, and went into almost survival mode just to keep money flowing into the business while he was recovering from his near-death experience. Throughout the time I was watching over the house, I relied on the massive $1 bill and change collection my parents had amassed over the last several years, probably about $1,000 in $1 bills and maybe $500 in mostly quarters. I was perfectly fine with it. I did not mind paying for groceries and gas with $1 bills or sacks of change, whatever I could do to alleviate my mother's stress. She was worried about being unable to wire me any money during this time to keep the house pets, 1 large dog and 3 fat cats fed. Eventually, my stepfather began to make a slow but steady recovery. He was practically skeletal upon returning home, and my mother, being a veteran in the medical assisting field, was familiar with medically caring for people. They wanted to get him back home. I stayed to help her primarily with the farm chores because caring for my stepfather was incredibly demanding. His goal was, of course, to jump right back into work, but this was a long shot for a while. Stress also greatly aggravates my stepfather's condition. This leads me to the core of my story. My parents turned to my older sister and her fiancé for a loan of $11,000 so they could pay a couple of trusted truck drivers to get back on the road in an attempt to reorganize efforts to return the company to profitability. They asked for this assistance to alleviate real stress so that my stepfather could focus on revamping the company. Both of my parents have not really been in a position to ask for financial help since they began running the company together. They do not like to ask unless it is an emergency for any kind of assistance, especially financially. My sister and her fiancé also own and operate a very lucrative business and consistently have a surplus of money for vacations, jewelry, and hobbies like motorcycling and gear-headed activities. A year later, in the present day, my parents' business is still operating at a capacity that is 60% fewer drivers, which of course translates to much lower income to help them out of debt. My parents opened several credit lines and are constantly working to keep the company afloat while paying bills. My sister and her fiancé have repeatedly asked my parents for the repayment of their loan. This is, of course, entirely within their rights, and they have a written agreement regarding the timely repayment. The issue for me is that my parents are still struggling to pay bills and recover from the emotional and financial trauma they endured last year. My sister and her fiancé recently, in the past 6 months, spent money on leisurely activities, such as visiting casinos and planning international vacations, cruises, and motorcycle-centered trips that cost thousands of dollars. My sister and her fiancé are not struggling nearly to the extent that my parents have been, and they are fully aware of this reality. I know I have been assisting my mother in every way I can physically around the house with chores so she can truly sit down and relax. I personally do not get along well with my sister's fiancé and made the choice not to interact or engage with him at all. For years, I have held my tongue about how he has treated my sister, my family, and certain personal aspects of his life out of respect for her. I am not someone who looks for trouble and enjoys creating waves, but I am also not one to remain silent about growing irritations due to her fiancé's insensitivities. After several occasions, my mother assured my sister's fiancé that they would, of course, pay them back as soon as they possibly could. He continued to call and text my mother past 9 p.m. to discuss the loan further. Meanwhile, during that same week, he and my sister were scheduled to take a trip to the Caribbean while my parents were accumulating credit card debt just to buy groceries and keep the lights on. He asked my parents if they could sign a revised contract regarding the repayment of the loan within 90 days, and my parents declined. I have kept quiet for all these months while witnessing firsthand my parents struggling in a way that is unprecedented in their entire relationship. They do not see what I see day in and day out regarding how exhausted and drained my parents are from months of stress. My sister and her fiancé never visit. They never plan trips here. Even just to spend a day with my parents, they live 3 hours away. For months, I have contemplated what I wanted to say to my sister and her fiancé, trying to find the right words to get them to understand how insensitive, selfish, and frankly delusional they are being toward our parents' plight. Instead, I have found myself biting my tongue and remaining silent for my parents' sake. Just yesterday, my mother took a serious fall down the icy steps and really injured her shoulder. I was nearby when I heard my mother on the phone with my sister, informing her about the situation, and she half-heartedly thanked me for being there for our mother. I did not respond right away. About an hour later, I initiated a conversation among my sister, her fiancé, and me. The only thing I sent to the group chat was, "I heard you both learned about what happened to Mom this morning. Don't you think now would be a great opportunity to ask her for your loan back? Maybe you could come up here and give her a good kick in the ribs while she is down." I have not received a reply, and it felt incredible to express those feelings honestly. I had many unkind and vividly descriptive character insults I had thought of over the past several months, but instead I chose this approach. Well, if you made it this far, thank you for reading.